Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Pioneer and stared at the massive object that had appeared in space overnight. The thing was huge, bigger than any human ship ever built. It hung there in the darkness like a metal moon, covered in strange lights that pulsed in patterns no human could understand. "Sir, we're getting signals from the object," said Lieutenant Carol White, her fingers dancing over the communication controls. "It's not like anything in our databases." Jake nodded and walked closer to the main screen. 3 days ago, this area of space had been empty. Now, something the size of a small city floated where nothing had been before. The scanner readings made no sense. The materials were unknown, the energy signatures were impossible, and the whole thing seemed to ignore basic physics. "Any response to our hails?" Jake asked. "Nothing yet, sir, but the signals are getting stronger. I think they're trying to talk to us." Ambassador Lisa Carter entered the bridge at that moment. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had been Earth's top diplomat for 20 years, handling everything from trade disputes to peace treaties. But she had never handled anything like this. "Captain Morrison, what's our status?" she asked. "The object appeared at Aero 300 hours, Ambassador. It's been sitting there ever since, broadcasting on multiple frequencies. We can't decode the signals, but they're definitely artificial." Lisa studied the massive structure on the main screen. The thing was beautiful in a terrifying way. Smooth curves mixed with sharp angles. Materials that seemed to shift color as she watched. Technology that was clearly far beyond anything humans had ever built. "I want to talk to them," she said. "Ma'am, we don't know if they're friendly," Jake replied. "That thing could destroy us without breaking a sweat. Then we better hope they want to talk instead of fight." The communications panel suddenly came alive with sound. Not words, but something like music, mixed with machine noise. Carol worked frantically at her controls, trying to find a pattern in the chaos. "I think I've got something," she said. "The computer is finding mathematical sequences in the signals. Prime numbers, basic equations. They're trying to establish common ground." "Can you respond?" Lisa asked. "I think so. Let me try sending back the same patterns." For the next hour, Carol and the alien intelligence played a game of mathematical tennis. Numbers flew back and forth, growing more complex with each exchange. Finally, the alien signals changed completely. "Ambassador Carter of Earth, we welcome you to speak with the Galactic Council." The voice came through the speakers in perfect English. Lisa felt her heart skip a beat. First contact with an alien species was happening right here, right now, and they already knew human language. "This is Ambassador Lisa Carter, representing the United Earth government. We're honored to meet you." "The honor is ours, Primitive One. You will come aboard our vessel for proper introductions. Bring no weapons. Your escort may accompany you, but know that any aggression will result in immediate termination." Jake frowned at the word primitive, but said nothing. Lisa noticed it too, but decided to let it pass for now. First contact was too important to risk over hurt feelings. 2 hours later, Lisa found herself walking through corridors that hurt to look at. The walls seemed to bend in impossible directions, and the lighting came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Captain Morrison walked beside her, along with Dr. Alan Foster, Earth's leading xenobiology expert. The meeting chamber was vast, with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness above. 12 different alien species stood around a circular platform in the center of the room. Lisa had studied every science fiction movie ever made, but none of them had prepared her for the reality of seeing actual aliens. One looked like a giant, blue mantis standing upright. Another resembled a walking tree with eyes scattered across its bark-like skin. A third was basically a floating jellyfish that sparkled with internal light. Each species was stranger than the last, and all of them were staring at the three humans with expressions that could only be described as amused contempt. The blue mantis stepped forward. "I am Vex Kalon, speaker for the Galactic Council. You stand before representatives of 12 species that have governed this galaxy for over 10,000 of your years. Lisa bowed slightly. I'm honored to meet you all. Humanity looks forward to joining the galactic community. Several of the aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. Vex Kalen's head tilted in what seemed like confusion. Join? Little primitive, you misunderstand your position. The Council does not accept members. We accept servants. The words hit Lisa like a physical blow. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Your species will be granted junior status within our domain. You will mine the resources we require, provide labor for our projects, and follow the laws we establish. In return, we will protect you from the dangers of space and provide you with technology appropriate to your development level. Dr. Foster stepped forward. What if we prefer to remain independent? This time, the laughter was unmistakable. The floating jellyfish pulsed with bright colors as it spoke. Independence is not an option for primitive species. You lack the wisdom to govern yourselves in galactic affairs. Lisa felt anger rising in her chest, but forced herself to remain diplomatic. We appreciate your offer, but humanity has always valued freedom and self-determination. Perhaps we could discuss a partnership instead? An alliance between equals? The laughter grew louder. The tree-like alien spoke in a voice like wind through leaves. Equals? Your entire species has existed for less time than our shortest lived. Member has been alive. Your technology is barely capable of reaching your nearest star. Your weapons are chemical explosives and metal projectiles. You speak of equality with beings who reshape worlds. Vex Kalen raised a clawed hand for silence. The Council is generous with new species. We offer you positions of service rather than immediate absorption. Many civilizations would consider this a great honor. And if we refuse? Jake asked quietly. Refusal is not possible. You exist within Council space now. Your planet holds resources we require. Your population can provide useful labor. These are facts, not negotiations. Lisa took a deep breath. She had spent her entire career finding ways to make deals work, finding compromises that let everyone save face. But there was no compromise here. These beings were offering slavery and calling it generosity. I need to consult with my government, she said. Of course. You have 7 of your days to accept our terms. After that, the matter will be handled administratively. The word administratively sent chills down Lisa's spine. She had a feeling that administrative handling would not be pleasant for humanity. The return trip to the Pioneer happened in silence. Only when they were safely back on their own ship did anyone speak. They're not interested in talking, Jake said. They've already decided what they want from us. Did you see their technology? Dr. Foster asked. The materials, the energy sources, the way they manipulate space itself? They're not bluffing about their capabilities. Lisa stared out at the alien vessel. They're also not bluffing about their intentions. They see us as insects, useful insects, but insects nonetheless. What do we tell Earth? Jake asked. Lisa was quiet for a long moment. Then she straightened her shoulders and looked at both men. We tell them the truth. We've made contact with a galactic civilization. They're more advanced than us. They're stronger than us. And they want to make us slaves. Think Earth will fight? Jake asked. Lisa smiled grimly. Captain, you've never met a human who took kindly to being told they had no choice. These aliens are about to learn something about our species that no amount of technology can prepare them for. The UES Pioneer turned toward home, carrying news that would change everything. Behind them, the Council vessel continued its patient wait, confident that the primitive humans would see reason and accept their proper place in the galactic order. They had no idea how wrong they were. Admiral Ben Rodriguez stood in the command center of Luna Base and watched the tactical display with growing concern. Red dots marked alien vessels throughout human space. In 3 months since first contact, the Council had made themselves at home in humanity's territory without asking permission. "Report," he said to Commander Lucy Hayes, his intelligence officer. 17 confirmed alien vessels in our systems, sir. They're conducting what they call resource surveys on our colonies. No hostile actions yet, but they're treating our space like they own it. Ben studied the display. The aliens had positioned their ships with careful precision. Every major human colony, every important trade route, every military installation was being watched. It was not exploration. It was preparation for occupation. Any word from the diplomatic front? Ambassador Carter is still trying to negotiate, but the aliens won't budge. They keep insisting that humanity accept junior status. In their council. Ben turned to look out the observation window at Earth hanging in space below. 3 billion humans lived on that blue world, and billions more on colonies scattered across dozens of star systems. All of them were about to become subjects of an alien empire unless something changed quickly. The communication panel chimed. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the alien vessel in Earth orbit. They're requesting immediate contact with human leadership. Put it through to the main screen." The image that appeared made Ben's skin crawl. The alien was clearly reptilian, with scales that shifted from green to brown as it moved. Its eyes were large and yellow, with vertical pupils that reminded Ben of a snake. When it spoke, its voice was cold and emotionless. "I am Sub-Commander, next Tauran of the Galactic Council. I bring final terms for your species integration into the Galactic Order." Ben activated his own transmission. "This is Admiral Rodriguez of the United Earth Defense Force. You're in human space without authorization. State your business." The alien's head tilted slightly. "Authorization is not required from junior species. The Council has determined that humanity will serve the galactic community in the following capacity: resource extraction, manual labor, and basic manufacturing. Your military forces will be disbanded. Your government will be restructured under Council oversight. Compliance begins immediately. And if we refuse, refusal will result in administrative correction. Your species lacks the technology to resist Council authority. Cooperation will minimize casualties during the transition period." Ben felt anger building in his chest. "Let me make something clear, Sub-Commander. Humanity doesn't recognize your authority over our territory or our people. We demand that all Council vessels leave human space immediately." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your demands are noted and dismissed. You have 60 standard days to begin compliance. Procedures. After that deadline, the Council will implement necessary corrections to ensure galactic stability." The transmission ended, leaving Ben staring at a blank screen. Commander Hayes spoke first. "Sir, what's administrative correction?" "I don't think we want to find out," Ben replied. "Get me President Stone on secure channels. It's time for some hard decisions." 2 hours later, Ben found himself in a virtual meeting with the highest levels of human government. President Catherine Stone sat at the head of the table, her face grim. Defense Secretary Robert Kim looked exhausted. Intelligence Director Carol Martinez was reviewing reports from across human space. "The situation is clear," President Stone said. "The aliens have given us an ultimatum. Submit or face the consequences. I want options, people." Secretary Kim spoke first. "Military resistance seems impossible. Our best estimates suggest technology is centuries ahead of ours. Their ships can travel faster than light without using jump gates. Their weapons can destroy our vessels from distances we can't even detect them at." "What about diplomacy?" asked the president. Ambassador Carter's image appeared on screen from her ship near the Council vessel. "I've been trying for 3 months, Madam President. They're not interested in negotiation. In their minds, they're being generous by offering us servant status instead of simply taking what they want." Director Martinez leaned forward. "I've been analyzing their behavior patterns. These beings have been in charge of the galaxy for thousands of years. They've never encountered significant resistance. Every species they've met has either submitted immediately or been crushed so quickly that word never spread. Are you suggesting they don't know how to handle real opposition? President Stone asked. I'm suggesting they've never needed to learn how. They show up, demonstrate their power, make their demands, and everyone falls in line. It's worked for, them for millennia. Admiral Rodriguez cleared his throat. There's something else. My analysis teams have been studying their ship movements and communication patterns. These aliens are powerful, but they're also predictable. They follow the same procedures everywhere they go. Same formations, same scanning patterns, same threats. Meaning what? Meaning they might be vulnerable to tactics they've never seen before. If we could surprise them, catch them off guard, we might have a chance. President Stone was quiet for a long moment. Ben, give me an honest assessment. If we fight these aliens, what are our chances? Ben looked around the virtual table at the faces of humanity's leaders. In a straight fight? 0. They'll crush us like bugs. But if we're smart about it, if we use tactics they don't expect, if we hit them where they're not prepared, maybe 1 chance in 100. And if we surrender, then humanity becomes a slave species for the rest of eternity. We'll mine their ore, build their ships, and raise our children to serve their empire. Human civilization as we know it ends. President Stone stood up. Then we fight. Carol, I want every military asset we have hidden or disguised. Robert, start moving civilian populations to secure locations. Lisa, keep talking to them, but don't give them any real information about our preparations. Ma'am, Admiral Rodriguez said, the aliens think we're primitive. They've dismissed our military capabilities as useless. We should let them keep thinking that. How do we do that? We act scared. We act helpless. We let them see us panicking and scrambling around like we don't know what we're doing. Meanwhile, we prepare for the biggest surprise in galactic history. Director Martinez smiled grimly. A deception operation on an interstellar scale. Exactly. These aliens have been in charge for so long that they've forgotten how to expect the unexpected. We're going to remind them. President Stone looked around the table one more time. Everyone understand the stakes here? If we fail, humanity is finished. If we succeed, we'll have made enemies of the most powerful force in the galaxy. Madam President, Admiral Rodriguez said, we've been dealing with bullies our entire history. As a species, the only thing that's changed is the size of the playground. Over the following weeks, a careful dance began across human space. On the surface, human authorities appeared to be desperately trying to find a way to comply with Council demands. Ships moved in obvious panic, communications were filled with fear and confusion, and military units seemed to be standing down everywhere. Underground, a different story was playing out. Weapons were being moved to secret locations. Ships were being retrofitted in hidden facilities. Plans were being made for a kind of warfare the galaxy had never seen. Dr. Helen Wright worked around the clock in her laboratory, studying captured alien technology and looking for weaknesses. Engineer Sophie Martinez led teams that were converting civilian equipment into military hardware. Captain Roy Davis trained Special Forces units in tactics designed specifically for fighting technologically superior enemies. The aliens watched it all with amused contempt. From their perspective, the humans were doing exactly what every other primitive species had done when faced with Council authority. Panic, confusion, desperate attempts to find an impossible solution to an unsolvable problem. Sub-Commander Nex Torin sent regular reports back to the Council describing human behavior as predictably primitive and following standard patterns for pre-integration species. The Council was so confident in their assessment that they didn't bother to increase security or change their procedures. Meanwhile, President Stone worked 18-hour days coordinating humanity's secret preparations. Every hidden weapons cache, every disguised military installation, every covert operation was part of a plan so audacious that most of her advisors thought it was suicide. We get one chance, she told her inner circle during a late-night planning session. One moment of surprise before they realize what we're really capable of. After that, it's going to be the fight of our lives. Admiral Rodriguez nodded. The aliens are expecting us to roll over and show our belly. Instead, we're going to show them our teeth. As the 60-day deadline approached, both sides prepared for what was coming. The council made final preparations for what they expected to be a simple administrative takeover. Humanity made final preparations for what they knew would be the most important war in human history. Neither side fully understood what the other was truly capable of, but they were about to find out. President Catherine Stone stood before the cameras in the Oval Office, knowing that her next words would change the course of human history. Behind her, the flag of United Earth hung motionless in the still air. In front of her, broadcast equipment, prepared to carry her message to every human settlement in known space, and beyond that, to the alien vessels waiting for humanity's surrender. She had practiced this speech a dozen times, but now that the moment had arrived, the words felt heavy, with the weight of 3 billion lives. Outside, the normal sounds of Washington continued. People went about their daily routines, unaware that their president was about to declare war on the most powerful force in the galaxy. "My fellow humans," she began, her voice steady and clear. 59 days ago, we made first contact with an alien civilization. We hoped this would mark the beginning of a new era of cooperation and friendship between species. Instead, we discovered that the galaxy is ruled by an empire that sees humanity as nothing more than a source of labor and resources. The red light on the main camera indicated that her words were being broadcast across human space and transmitted to every council ship within range. On Luna Base, Admiral Rodriguez watched the transmission while his staff made final preparations for the military operations that would follow. In hidden bunkers across Earth, General Webb's commanders waited for the signal to begin humanity's first interstellar war. "The Galactic Council has given us an ultimatum," President Stone continued. "Submit to their authority, accept status as a servant species, and abandon our dreams of exploring the galaxy as free beings, or face what they call administrative correction, which means the destruction of our civilization and the enslavement of our people." She paused, looking directly into the camera. Somewhere out there, alien intelligence officers were probably translating her words and dismissing them as the desperate bluster of a doomed species. They had no idea what was coming. "I have consulted with our military leaders, our scientists, our diplomats, and our elected representatives. The choice before us is clear. We can surrender our freedom and live as slaves, or we can fight for our right to exist as an independent species. The decision is unanimous." On the bridge of the Council command ship orbiting Earth, Sub-Commander Nex Torin watched the human transmission with amusement. The primitive leader was clearly building up to some kind of dramatic gesture, probably a plea for more time or better terms. It was standard behavior for species facing inevitable integration into the galactic order. Therefore, President Stone said, her voice growing stronger, "I am authorized by the United Earth Government and the Colonial Congress to make the following declaration. Effective immediately, a state of war exists between humanity and the Galactic Council. We reject their authority over our territory, their claims on our resources, and their demands for our submission." The bridge of the council ship went completely silent. Nex Torin stared at the transmission screen, certain that his translator had malfunctioned. Primitive species did not declare war on galactic civilizations. It was impossible. It was unthinkable. "We call upon all free species in the galaxy to join us in resistance to council tyranny," President Stone continued. "We call upon the oppressed peoples under council rule to rise up and reclaim their freedom. And we call upon the council itself to withdraw from human space immediately, or face the consequences of their aggression against a sovereign people." The transmission ended. leaving behind stunned silence on ships throughout the system. Then next Torin began to laugh. The sound started as a low hiss and built to something that resembled the noise a broken engine might make. "Did the primitive just declare war on us?" asked his communications officer, a slug-like being whose translator rendered his voice as perpetually confused. "It appears so," next Torin replied, still laughing. "Alert the Council Command. Tell them the humans have chosen administrative correction. Also inform them that this species appears to have developed delusions of military competence." But Admiral Rodriguez was already moving. The moment President Stone finished speaking, coded signals went out to every human military unit in space. Operation Freedom was now active. Across the solar system, weapons systems that had been disguised as civilian infrastructure suddenly came online. Captain Roy Davis commanded the battleship UES Defiance, currently hiding in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. His ship was one of 20 vessels that had been secretly positioned around the solar system during the past month. The aliens knew about humanity's obvious military bases, but they had completely missed the hidden fleet. "All stations, this is. Admiral Rodriguez," came the voice over secure channels. "Operation Freedom is now active. You are weapons-free. Repeat, you are weapons-free. Show these aliens what humans do to bullies." Roy felt a surge of adrenaline as his crew sprang into action. For weeks, they had watched alien ships patrol human space like they owned it. Now it was time to teach them about property rights. Human style. Navigation plot intercept course for the Council vessel at Mars Station. Weapons, I want full missile spreads ready for launch. Engineering, push the reactors to maximum output. Throughout the solar system, similar scenes played out on ships that were supposed to be too primitive to threaten advanced alien technology. The Council had made detailed scans of human vessels and dismissed them as barely capable of interplanetary travel. They had no idea that those same ships had been secretly upgraded with weapons designed specifically for fighting superior alien technology. On Earth, General Webb watched tactical displays showing the positions of every human unit and every alien target. The plan was audacious to the point of insanity, but it was also the only chance humanity had. The first phase called for simultaneous strikes on every Council vessel in human space, not to destroy them, which was probably impossible, but to hurt them enough to get their attention. To show them that humans were not helpless victims waiting for processing. "All units report ready," Colonel Stone announced. "Missile platforms are armed and targeted. Strike teams are in position. Special operations packages are prepared for deployment." Webb nodded and opened a channel to every human military unit. "This is General Webb. For centuries, humans have fought for freedom against impossible odds. Today we do it again. But this time the battlefield is space, and the enemy thinks we're too primitive to matter. Let's show them how wrong they are. All units, execute Operation Freedom." The attack began simultaneously across the solar system. Nuclear-tipped missiles launched from hidden platforms, streaking toward alien vessels that had been conducting routine patrols. Kinetic bombardment systems that the aliens had mistaken for mining equipment suddenly swiveled to target Council ships. Human vessels that should have been helpless suddenly revealed weapons that shouldn't have existed. Sub-Commander Nex Torin was reviewing supply reports when his ship shook violently. Alarms began blaring throughout the vessel as damage control teams scrambled to assess what had happened. "Report!" he shouted. "Multiple missile impacts on our outer hull," his tactical officer replied, panic creeping into his translated voice. "The humans have launched some kind of attack." "Impossible. Human weapons can't penetrate our shields." "Sir, the missiles were nuclear-tipped and designed to detonate against our shield matrix. The explosions disrupted our defensive systems long enough for follow-up kinetic strikes to impact our hull." Next, Torin stared at his tactical display in disbelief. 3 other Council ships in the system were showing damage indicators. The humans had actually hurt them. It should have been impossible, but the evidence was right there on his screens. How did they coordinate simultaneous attacks across the entire system? Our intelligence reports indicated their communication systems were too primitive for real-time. Interstellar coordination. Unknown, sir. But the attacks were precisely timed and targeted our most vulnerable systems. The truth was that humanity had learned from 3 months of watching Council operations. While the aliens had dismissed human intelligence gathering as primitive curiosity, human observers had been carefully mapping alien patrol routes, shield frequencies, and tactical procedures. Every attack had been planned to exploit specific weaknesses in specific ships, but the real surprise was yet to come. As Council ships throughout the system began to recover from the initial strikes and prepare counterattacks, they discovered that the humans weren't done. Captain Davis brought the UES Defiance out of the asteroid belt at maximum acceleration, heading directly for the Council command ship. His vessel was outnumbered and outgunned, but it had one advantage the aliens couldn't have anticipated. "Sir, the alien ship is powering weapons," his tactical officer reported. "Good. That means they're taking us seriously. Execute attack pattern. Delta." What happened next had never been seen in galactic warfare. Instead of approaching in standard formation for a traditional engagement, the Defiance suddenly split into multiple targets. What the aliens had thought was a single ship was actually 5 smaller vessels that had been docked together and disguised as one larger craft. The Council ship's targeting systems, designed to track large capital ships in formal fleet engagements, couldn't adapt quickly enough to the sudden appearance of multiple fast-moving targets approaching from different vectors. Their weapons fire, intended for one Fleet Admiral Nancy Kim, stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty and watched the enemy fleet approach Mars orbit with grim determination. 3 weeks had passed since humanity's first victory against the Galactic Council, and now the aliens were back with enough firepower to turn entire planets into dust. "Enemy fleet composition?" she asked her tactical officer. Commander Eric Johnson consulted his displays. 47 capital ships, over 200 escort vessels, and at least a dozen of those massive dreadnoughts we've never seen before. They're maintaining standard Council formation but moving much more cautiously than last time. Nancy nodded. The aliens had learned from their first encounter with human tactics. This time they weren't treating humanity as a minor police action. They were coming in force, ready for a real war. Our forces? 38 ships of various classes, plus the defensive platforms around Mars. We're outnumbered about 6 to 1, but our ships have been upgraded with everything our engineers could manage in 3 weeks. Nancy looked out at the red planet hanging in space before them. Mars was humanity's second most important world, home to over 50 million people and the center of human industry beyond Earth. If the aliens took Mars, they would control the key to humanity's industrial capacity. "Signal from the enemy fleet," Communications Officer Linda Park reported. "They're demanding our immediate surrender." "Put it through." The face that appeared on the main screen was new to Nancy, but the arrogance was familiar. This alien looked like a cross between a shark and a dragon, with metallic scales and cold black eyes that showed no emotion. "I am Admiral Zeph Korvac of the Galactic Council 3rd Battle Fleet. You will surrender immediately and submit to administrative processing. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your forces and the sterilization of your planetary assets." Nancy activated her reply channel. "This is Fleet Admiral Kim of the United Earth Defense Force. This is human space, and you are not welcome here. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Admiral Korvac's expression didn't change, but Nancy could sense his amusement. "Your species inflicted minor damage on a survey fleet through the use of primitive surprise tactics. Do not mistake that for military competence. You face the full power of Council military authority. Surrender now and limit the casualties among your people." "Counter-proposal," Nancy replied. "Turn around and go home. We've beaten you once, and we'll beat you again." This time, Korvac did show emotion. His black eyes flashed with what might have been anger or anticipation. "So be it. You will learn the difference between a police action and actual warfare." The transmission ended and Nancy turned to her crew. "All ships, Battle stations. This is not going to be like last time. They're ready for us now. Admiral Korvac had indeed learned from the first engagement. His ships approached in overlapping defensive formations that would make coordinated strikes difficult. Their scanning systems were actively searching for the kind of hidden weapons platforms that had surprised them before. Most importantly, they were maintaining safe distances that would prevent the humans from using their disruptor technology. "Begin the attack," Korvac ordered. What followed was unlike anything in human military experience. The Council ships opened fire from ranges that human weapons couldn't even reach. Energy beams that could core a planet lanced through space, striking human vessels with devastating precision. The UES Courage, one of humanity's newest battleships, took a direct hit from a Council dreadnought's main battery. The ship simply ceased to exist, vaporized so completely that there wasn't even debris left behind. "Evasive maneuvers," Nancy ordered. "All ships, scatter formation Delta." But the aliens had anticipated human mobility tactics. Their targeting systems tracked multiple fast-moving targets with ease, and their overwhelming firepower meant that even partial hits were usually fatal. Captain Steve Mitchell commanded the destroyer UES Hammer, one of the smaller ships in Nancy's fleet. He watched in horror as 3 more human vessels were destroyed in as many seconds. "Sir, we can't get close enough to use our weapons effectively," his tactical officer reported. "Their range advantage is too great." Steve gritted his teeth. The aliens were fighting this battle like a traditional fleet engagement, using their superior technology and firepower to methodically destroy human forces from safe distances. It was exactly the kind of warfare they excelled at. "Signal Admiral Kim," he ordered. "Request permission to execute desperate measures." Nancy received Steve's request and understood immediately what he was proposing. It was insane, suicidal, and probably their only chance of inflicting meaningful damage on the enemy fleet. "Permission granted," she replied. "All ships, prepare for ramming speed operations." What happened next shocked even the experienced Council Admiral. Instead of trying to retreat or fight a hopeless long-range battle, the human ships suddenly accelerated directly toward the alien fleet at maximum velocity. "They're committing suicide," Korvac's tactical officer observed. "No," Korvac replied slowly. "They're trying to get close enough to use their short-range weapons. Fascinating. Primitive, but clever." The Council ships concentrated their fire on the approaching human vessels, destroying most of them before they could reach effective range. But a few ships made it through the defensive fire, and when they did, they proved that humanity had learned new tricks. Captain Mitchell's destroyer was burning and holed in a dozen places, but it was still functional when it reached the outer edge of the Council formation. Instead of trying to engage the massive alien ships in a conventional battle, he did something no Council captain would have considered. "Ramming speed," he ordered. "Target the lead dreadnought." The UES Hammer accelerated directly toward the alien flagship, not to engage it in combat, but to physically collide with it. The Council ship's point defense systems destroyed the human destroyer just before impact, but the explosion and debris caused significant damage to the alien vessel's hull. Similar scenes played out across the battlefield as human ships sacrificed themselves to damage their opponents. It was a tactic the Council had never encountered before, because no species in galactic history had ever been desperate enough or determined enough to use it. "Report," Admiral Korvac demanded as his flagship shook from another impact. "Multiple human vessels have attempted ramming attacks. We've lost 3 escort ships and suffered damage to 2 capital ships. The humans appear to be willing to trade their entire fleet for minimal damage to our forces." Korvac studied his tactical display. The human fleet was almost completely destroyed, but they had managed to inflict real casualties on his forces. More importantly, they had demonstrated a level of fanatical determination that troubled him. "Signal the remaining human ships," he ordered. "Offer them one final chance to surrender." Admiral Kim received the transmission aboard her badly damaged flagship. Half her fleet was gone, and the rest wouldn't last much longer against the overwhelming alien firepower. But the battle had accomplished something important. This is Admiral Kim. Before I answer your offer, let me share some information with you. This engagement has been broadcast throughout human space on all frequencies. Every human colony, every human ship, every human military base has been watching you destroy our fleet. She paused, making sure her words were being recorded by the alien vessels. You've shown them that you're strong, but you've also shown them that we can hurt you, that we're willing to die rather than surrender, that humans don't give up just because the odds are bad. Korvac's expression remained unchanged, but Nancy could see that her words were having an effect. Your fleet is destroyed. Your people have seen you fail. Have they? Nancy asked. Or have they seen that a small human fleet damaged the mighty Third Battle Fleet? That council ships can be destroyed by primitive humans? That your reputation for invincibility is just propaganda? The truth was that the battle had been broadcast throughout human space, just as Nancy claimed. But it had also been intercepted and recorded by intelligence services throughout the galaxy. For the first time in over 1,000 years, species under council rule were seeing that the Galactic Empire could bleed. Surrender now and spare the remainder of your crews, Korvac insisted. Nancy looked around her bridge at her surviving officers. They were battered, exhausted, and facing certain death, but none of them showed any sign of wanting to give up. Negative, she replied. We'll fight until the last ship, the last shot, the last breath. That's what humans do. Admiral Korvac terminated the communication and turned to his tactical officer. Destroy the remaining human vessels. The last phase of the battle was brief and one-sided. The surviving human ships were systematically eliminated by overwhelming alien firepower. But even as they died, they continued to fight, continued to inflict damage, continued to show the galaxy that humans would not go quietly into slavery. The UES Liberty was the last ship remaining when Admiral Kim made her final transmission. This is Fleet Admiral Nancy Kim to all human forces. We have engaged the enemy fleet and inflicted significant casualties. The Council can be beaten. The galaxy can be free. Remember us and carry on the fight. The transmission ended just as the Liberty exploded under concentrated fire from 3 Council dreadnoughts add. The red dust of the Australian outback swirled around Kate Morrison's boots as she walked toward the strange readings on her scanner. The year was 2157, and humanity had just started building cities on Mars. Kate worked as a geologist for the Mars Mining Corporation, searching Earth for rare metals needed for the new colonies. The readings are getting stronger, Kate called out to her team. Her voice carried across the empty desert through the comm system in her helmet. The scanner in her hands beeped faster and faster as she moved forward. Behind her, 3 other team members followed with heavy drilling equipment. They had been working in this area for 2 weeks, looking for deposits of rare earth metals. Nothing had prepared them for what they were about to find. The scanner started making a continuous high-pitched sound. Kate stopped walking and looked down at the device. The reading showed something massive buried about 50 feet below the surface. It was not metal ore or any natural formation she had ever seen. Jake, bring the deep scanner over here, Kate said into her comm. Jake Williams, the team's equipment specialist, walked over carrying a larger scanning device. This machine could see much deeper into the ground and give more detailed readings. Jake set up the deep scanner and turned it on. The display screen showed something that made both of them step back in surprise. There was a large object buried below them. It was not round like a meteor or jagged like crashed space debris. It was smooth and shaped like a ship. That can't be right, Jake said, staring at the screen. The readings show this thing is over 2 kilometers long. Kate looked at the display again. The object was huge and clearly artificial. It had been buried here for a very long time, covered by thousands of years of dust and rock. But what troubled her most was that it did not match any human technology she knew about. We need to call this in, Kate said. She activated her long-range comm system and contacted her supervisor back at the mining station. Control, this is Team 7. We have found something unusual. I need you to patch me through to United Nations Space Command. The voice on the other end sounded confused. Kate, what kind of unusual? Are we talking about a new mineral deposit? No, Kate replied, looking down at the scanner readings again. We found a ship, a very big ship, and it's not one of ours. 3 hours later, a transport aircraft landed near their position. Dr. Jake Sullivan stepped out carrying several cases of equipment. He was a xenoarchaeologist, one of the few people on Earth trained to study artifacts from other worlds. Most of his work involved examining rocks and debris that fell from space, but this was different. Dr. Sullivan was a tall man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had spent his career hoping to find proof that intelligent life existed beyond Earth. Now, standing in the Australian desert, he might finally have his answer. "Show me what you found," Dr. Sullivan said as he approached Kate's team. Kate handed him the scanner and pointed to the readings. Dr. Sullivan studied the display for several minutes, then set up his own equipment. His machines were more advanced than the mining scanners and could detect different types of materials. "The hull appears to be made from an alloy we don't recognize," Dr. Sullivan said after completing his scan. "The readings suggest it contains elements that don't exist on our periodic table. This is definitely not human technology." The team worked for the rest of the day, taking detailed scans of the buried object. By evening, they had mapped out the entire ship. It was massive, with a sleek design unlike any spacecraft humans had ever built. The bow was pointed like a spear, while the stern was wider with what looked like engine ports. "How long has it been here?" Kate asked. Dr. Sullivan looked at his geological scanner. "Based on the sediment layers above it, I would estimate at least 5,000 years, maybe longer." That night, the team set up camp near the site. Dr. Sullivan spent hours on his communication system, talking to officials at the United Nations Space Command. By morning, the decision had been made to begin excavation immediately. Within 2 days, the site was transformed. Heavy machinery arrived from around the world. Construction crews worked around the clock to carefully remove tons of rock and dirt from above the alien ship. Scientists from every major nation came to observe the excavation. As more of the ship became visible, the excitement grew. The hull was dark, gray, and smooth, made from a material that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols were carved along the sides, clearly some form of writing. Most interesting of all, there were obvious signs of damage. Large holes had been punched through sections of the hull, and scorch marks covered much of the surface. This ship was in a battle, Dr. Sullivan told the assembled scientists. These look like weapon impacts. Dr. Amy Foster, a linguist who specialized in ancient languages, was brought in to study the alien writing. She set up her equipment near the exposed sections of the hull and began photographing every symbol she could find. "The writing is complex," Amy said after her first day of work. "It uses a combination of geometric shapes and flowing lines. I've never seen anything like it, but there are patterns. It's definitely a language." On the 5th day of excavation, the teams found something that changed everything. A section of the hull had been damaged in whatever battle the ship had fought. The hole was large enough for a person to climb through. Dr. Sullivan was the first to enter the alien vessel. He wore a full environmental suit and carried lights and scanning equipment. The interior was dark and silent, but his scanners showed that the air inside was still breathable, though very old. The ship's corridors were tall and narrow, designed for beings much different from humans. Emergency lighting systems activated as Dr. Sullivan moved deeper into the vessel, suggesting that some power systems were still functioning after thousands of years. In what appeared to be the ship's control room, Dr. Sullivan made a discovery that would change human history forever. The bodies of the ship's crew were still at their stations. They were tall and thin, with elongated heads and 4 arms. Their bones were white and brittle, but their clothing and equipment were perfectly preserved. "I'm looking at the remains of an alien crew," Dr. Sullivan reported back to the surface team. "They appear to have died at their posts. Whatever happened to this ship, they stayed until the end." But the most important discovery was yet to come. In the center of the control room sat a large, crystalline device that pulsed with faint blue light. Dr. Sullivan's scanners indicated it was some kind of computer system, still active after all these years. As Dr. Sullivan approached the device, it suddenly flared brighter. Symbols appeared in the air above it, the same alien writing that covered the ship's hull. The computer was trying to communicate. The discovery of the alien ship sent shockwaves around the world. Humanity was not alone in the universe, and the proof was buried in the Australian desert. But more than that, this ship represented technology, far beyond anything humans had achieved. If they could understand it, it might change the future of the human race forever.